Well, it looks like I'm live. And it looks super fuzzy and blurry, so let's try to get this right and figure this out. Because YouTube does everything in its power to make it really, really hard for someone who is not a full-time streamer or a full-time YouTuber to use any of their features. So let's figure this out here. Oh, that's not working. Look at that. There we go. Now just to make it balance. Here we are. All right. Minute and 15 seconds in. Well, I figured we finally hit 500 subscribers and it would be a good idea to do some live painting. I don't know if anyone is going to join us. I don't even know how to tell if anybody's even watching. I don't know if there's a delay. I don't even know if this is going to upload later. All I know is it says that I'm live and I'm streaming, and I'm going to spend an hour or so painting this Mr. Handy robot from Fallout Wasteland Warfare. So I threw him on a custom base. I 3D printed this base, and yeah, time to get started. So, well, this is my paint desk. I don't think anyone's ever seen my entire paint desk in any of my videos because I usually have it on my cell phone, and so you see about this much of the desk, and that's usually a good thing. But with YouTube settings, you can't actually stream using a phone until you've hit 1,000 subscribers. So apparently you 500 subscribers that I have, you're just not good enough for what YouTube wants out of you. So we'll have a good time anyway. I'm going to start by airbrushing some of this guy. Basically, I'm running the Fallout Wasteland Warfare RPG for some of my friends. I am the overseer, aka GM, DM, whatever you want to call it. And in the RPG, if you're following the what's it called? If you're following like the base scenarios that come with the game, you get to meet a Mr. Handy robot that is a little weird. He's a little whacked out. He's been beaten up, and he believes that he is in some sort of Arthurian legend. He calls himself Mr. Parseval, and we're going to get him painted up. So that is Mecha Color Steel. And I dilute it. It is meant for an airbrush, but I still, metallics don't ever run well through an airbrush. So yeah, the Mecha Colors are really like the line that Vallejo made for people to use painting up Gundams. There's a whole lot of Japanese caricatures on the label because it's really meant specifically for Gundam. But it works really, really well for everything else. So, I mean, there's no real complaints on my side. I really like the flow of the Mecha Colors, but I do think that they still need a little bit of flow improver. If you aren't using an airbrush, you can just brush them on just fine without any issues. So I'm going to give this one about 2 coats, and I'm going to paint the base as well because the base is all metallic. Well, it's all metal, and then it's going to have like dirt and grime over it. And I'm hoping that we can actually paint this guy up pretty quickly because there isn't much to him. So just used a regular black primer, kind of the same primer I use for a lot of my miniatures. And then I put a toothpick. That's a toothpick there in between him and the base. That's holding him on there. So figured that would be a good way to connect him and keep him sturdy and stable, because he isn't the most sturdy and stable of a character. A lot of his little parts are so skinny and thin that it makes it difficult to make sure that he's going to stay in one piece and not just come off of this instantly. So just making sure that we got really good coverage on him. All right, that looks like a pretty good start. So then what I like to do is use the airbrush to just blow air at him to dry him off, and then that way I can hit a second coat quickly. All right, perfect. All right, just gonna let him dry for a second. Got my wet palette here, and as you see, I've been using it to paint. I think this light is a little bit too bright for what we're trying to do. Let's see if I can. There, that's a little bit better. A little bit harder for me to see, but a little bit better for the camera to see. It's not bad. All right, so with this, I'm going to let this keep on drying. And in the meantime, I'm going to switch over and, well, clean out my airbrush. And I see the problem with doing live is that you just can't be that efficient, because you're going to see everything that goes into it. And maybe some of you are excited about that. But I have my little airbrush cleaner here. And then I have water. So I put water in there first. And the hard part about silver paint or metallic gray paint in a silver paint well is that you can't even see that it's in there. So I'm just going to have to do a couple rounds with water, and then I'll do a round with cleaner. And I just use these little bottles. I got a couple of these little bottles, put one with water in it, and then one with cleaner in it. That way I do a couple rounds of water, and then a round of cleaner, and then another round of water. And that pretty much gets everything out of there. Because if I am going to use another color, you don't want to use you don't want to have a metallic on there, or else everything that I spray is going to have little flecks of metal in there. So yeah, I'm just seeing how this goes tonight, seeing how live painting kind of works and if I enjoy it. It'd be a lot nicer if somebody was actually in here with me, because I clicked on the participants button. I finally figured out how to do that, and it shows that I'm here by myself. So be cool if someone was in here to hang out with me. But, you know, I'll take what I can get, which at right now is nothing. So I'll take that. Well, actually, before we get into painting his, well, no, yeah, I think that the painting his colors is going to be better. So in the storyline, he, like I said, he thinks he's of Arthurian legends, so he has Arthurian colors. So he has a blue and white checker box on him, and then he also has a orange and white checker box on him. So, and that's described. Now, it's your story. You can do whatever the hell you want with it, but I am going to follow that as much as possible, just to make it a little bit easier. And I got this new color of Stormy Blue, which is just a really awesome purplish blue, which I think will make a really good base tone for the blue. So we'll use that for the blue. We'll use off-white to start the white. That's probably where we'll end. So let's go with Wolf Gray. Wolf Gray, my old favorite when it comes to doing whites. So we got Stormy Blue, we got Wolf Gray, and now we need... What else do we need? Stormy Blue, Wolf Gray, and an orange. Well, I think Parasite Brown will make a good orange base. Parasite Brown is a really absolutely disgusting orange color. Orangish brown color. And I think that this one will be really good for laying down the base tone to start with. It really needs to be shaken up, though. It's super running. All right. So the easiest way to do this is to paint the two lines in the lightest color first, and then go on from there. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take the Wolf Gray, and don't need a ton of it, so I'll just plop some down there. And I just realized I don't have any water in my cup, so I'll be right back. How can 13 and a half minutes already have gone by and I haven't done anything? God, I'm the slowest painter ever. I mean, like, I get it. I'm talking and I'm, trying to set things up, and I keep looking at the camera and I keep looking down at the monitor to see if the camera's lined up right and all that. But just overall, I'm so slow. All right, so just a little bit of water on here. Don't need to thin it down too much. And then just going to paint some lines across him in two pretty big, like, swaths right across him. And we're going to have to do quite a few coats of this because we want that metallic to be gone. We don't want to see it underneath. And this is going to be the base for white. So for it to be the base for white, it needs to be on there solidly. So we're going to have two lines. So I'm doing one in the top third, and then I'm doing one in the bottom third. Well, definitely, if you've made it this far in the video, if you're watching it later, because I'm going to upload the VOD. If you're watching this later, let me know. Are you interested in seeing live painting at regular intervals, like doing this every Tuesday night? from 7 to 10 p.m. or something like that? Or are you more interested in the old style videos? And I will tell you this, I'm less interested in doing the old style videos. It's really awesome when I make one and it gets 500 or 600 views and people seem to be into it and people let me know that it helped. That's a really, really awesome feeling. It's definitely something that I wish I could do all the time, like have success with a video, a success in my, my range of success. But most of the videos that I make have 50 views after being up 6 months. They've taken that long to get to 50. And I put the exact same amount of work into those ones as I do into the ones that get, well, actually there's some of them now that have up to 6,000 views, which is very awesome. But it's just like, I don't know what I could do differently, because it's not just like one game or one type. Like some of them are reviews or how to plays. Some of them are painting guides. Some of them are, well, an old one was a video game guide that I did about 11 years ago at this point, which is just ridiculous to think that I've been just throwing videos up on this website for 11 years. And I'm not a professional YouTuber. I have a day job. I just do this for fun. But there also is a bit of like overwhelmingness that comes with continuously feeling the need to entertain, because I've been so lucky that 500 people are interested in seeing what I put up next. But there's the downside of that is I don't have the time to really like innovate and continuously do it. And I know that there's like a bunch of people on YouTube that say, okay, well, you have to set a goal for yourself. And if you don't have the right amount of subscribers by the time, like if you say, I want 10,000 subscribers, and if I don't get that, then just stop making videos. But I feel like that's if you're trying to make money and stuff. Like if you're just throwing stuff up because you want to engage with people, which is what I want to do, then like it's not really worth it. But the thing is that while some of you are definitely engaged regularly, some of you are just interested in watching the videos that you care about, which is cool because that's what I do on other people's channels. And I'm not like knocking you or anything. Like you're allowed to consume the content however you deem fit and however it fits into your life. But the fact is that like I'm doing this and making videos of painting so that I could then hopefully talk to people who could tell me, oh, if you would have done this, it'd get better. You'd get better at that. And, I really enjoy the painting, and I really enjoy the communicating and talking back and forth with people. So let's see, move him up here. Can barely see anything. This camera is a really shitty web camera. But there you are. Boop, boop. So now we're going to go back and do a second coat. So once this gets on there very solidly and it's easy to see this line, this white line, which it looks white on anything else. It looks very white until you compare it to something that is white. And then you can see that it's gray. But it's going to take probably 2 or 3 coats of doing this. And then we can move on to the blue and the orange. And that's actually it for his body and his legs. What I'm going to try to do is do some fun stuff with his, like the post that's holding him up in the air. I would like to put some cotton balls or some cotton from a cotton ball on there and make it look like fire. I think that would be fun. And then with the rest of him, we're going to make him all dirty and gross. So after this, we'll do after all the paint is done, we'll do a black wash on the whole guy. He'll get a Nuln Oil wash, and then we'll come back and do a brown wash. But I think that depending on the length of this video at that point, we might just stop, and I might just do that off camera and be done with it, because that's going to take a little while. So this will probably be our third and final coat of this. It looks like it's coated pretty well already. And then as I'm looking at this model, I'm just seeing such opportunity to do some cool stuff. Like there's these little overhangs right here that are on underneath his eyeball cameras, and they just look really perfect to add some sort of insignia or something cool on there like that. Just a little more on here. Just want it to be really saturated before you move on. Otherwise, you're going to get streaks and lines when you do the white. Now, for tabletop quality, for what I'm using this for, that's not really that important. I mean, if there's streaks and lines all over the place, then there's streaks and lines all over the place. Now, I'm going to water this down even a little bit more to make it very thin and able to be glazed. I'm going to come and I'm going to glaze the sides of this. Now, it's a little rounded, so this is going to be thicker than it usually is, but that's okay. When we do the, first off, this will dull down after the wash. Well, this will dull down after it dries, and then it'll dull down again after the wash, which then it'll give us, kind of a shiny corner, which is what we want for the metal. I'm not too worried about the inside, this portion here, because that portion is going to eventually be like dirt and gravel and stuff like that. So that should be fine. There we go. We already have some black here. So I'm going to take the black and just paint it on the inside of these like cuts in the side of the base, just to make sure that it's real nice and deep shadow in there before we even get to the washes. That way the wash isn't expected to do everything. Because the wash, it'll take care of most things, but it shouldn't be expected to just do everything. Otherwise, it's gonna fail. It's not gonna be able to cover well enough. So there we go. That's got a nice, deep, solid color in there. All right. Let's see. That gray looks pretty solid, I would say. So now let's go with our white, which that I'm going to use the off-white. So I'm going to mix this up real good. Always make sure to shake your paints. I don't need a ton. I waste a lot of paint because I put down way too much. This is an okay amount, but usually I put down way too much. And then after this painting tonight, I will throw this sheet away and get a new one because this is a little out of control. So what we're going to do is come across the top of each of these and leave just about a quarter of the gray showing at the bottom. And then on this bottom one, we're going to come across and leave about half of the gray showing on the bottom. We're going to do the same thing on the other ones as we go around. 75% of the top one, 50% of the bottom one gets covered by the off-white. Now this is, again, because whites have such a problem glazing and covering up other colors, even colors that are similar to themselves. It's going to take a couple of layers before we get to what we need. So 75% the top, 50% the bottom. And we already can see pretty clearly the delineation in the color. Now, this we want to dry completely before we go on to the next coat, because otherwise we're just going to be pushing the paint around rather than actually layering another layer on top. And this is a good way to learn too what happens with layers is when you're working with a gray and a white. Come back and look at that gray and the white after you've already put them on, and you can see that the gray shows through completely and the white is just in streaks, even though when you painted it on it looked perfect. And that's just the way that, you know, the white pigment is. The white pigment reflects light. It wants to reflect everything, so it's also reflecting the stuff that's coming from the other side. It's just, you know, trying to do its job, but unfortunately, that's not what we want it to do. What we want its job to be is looking off-white and reflecting just that off-white color to everybody. If your brush gets a little split like that, just make sure you wash it out. So 2 more, maybe 3 more coats. Nothing hard about it. Just take your time. And then again, dry it off. And this is, I feel like, what I use my airbrush for more than anything is drying my models in between coats. Seems to be the thing that works best for me. Yeah, see, there's still silver in there. I don't know if you can see that spot on my hand there. But I'm just blowing air. There's no paint coming out. But I wanted to see if it was clean, and it's still shooting a little bit of silver. So before I use this, I'll wash it out again. All right, that should be enough. Usually it doesn't even take more than a minute or two. Well, that's actually too long. What I meant to say is about 10 or 15 seconds. Then I said a minute or two for absolutely no reason. So we're going to paint on a final layer. Now, if you're doing anything like this and you think it is not covering well enough, then you paint more layers. What you don't want to do is use thicker paint. Thicker paint will not solve your problem. I've learned that after about 1,000 times of going, well, it's not covering, so I'm going to use more paint. Doesn't work. Doesn't help anything. It makes it look like crap when you're done. You're not going to like the result. You're going to get frustrated and go, why is it not look smooth? It doesn't look smooth because it is not fully dried before you put the next layer on, and it doesn't look smooth because you didn't put enough layers. And then once you use too much paint, it doesn't look smooth because you used too thick a paint and you didn't thin it enough. So yes, thinning your paint will make you spend more time, but thinning your paint will give you good results. So the last layer I'm going to put on is white. And now white is going to go on to about 20, I would say a little more, about a third, about 33% of the top. Mix this up. About 33% of the top. And about 25% or somewhere in that 25-10% of the bottom. Just want it to like kind of be a real thick line at the top. Not thick as in the paint, but thick as in how wide the line is that we're making. And the reason we're doing that is because this line, the bottom line, is further away from the sun, so it's going to be slightly darker. So we just want to sort of qualify that by putting less of the highlight color down there. Now this will definitely need 2 coats. Got a pretty good gradient so far, so I'll real quickly use the airbrush. I mean, if you really want to know how long it takes, I would say count to 15 and you'll be good. What else can you use? You can use a hair dryer. Hair dryer works well. Just put it on the medium setting, or if it has a cool setting, the cool setting. Don't use the hot setting. Especially if you have plastic miniatures. If you have cool mini or not miniatures and you use the hot setting, there's a really good chance that you will just melt the miniature. It won't melt into like a crumpled pile, of course. That's ridiculous. But it will bend, and then you'll get, drooping weapons and things like that. So let's go hit this with our last coat. A little bit more water for this white. It's not flowing very well. Same thing again here. And then you may have noticed that I'm not getting into all of the intricate places that I was on the bottom the first time around. I'm not doing that now because, again, like those are shadow areas, so they don't get the brightest highlight. And you can't go any brighter than white, so I'm not going to do a highlight like that. Now, normally, if I was painting this and really wanted it to stand out, I would do a silver from the top down to do like a zenithal highlight of the metal itself. Do a non-metallic metal. But what I'm really thinking, these are so fragile. They look like they're going to break at any second. This piece here already broke on me. This whole entire leg broke off. So I would not be surprised if it did break, but you can see how absolutely thin those things are. There's just like almost nothing there. There's a weird angle, but yeah, so you can see so thin. You can also now see that white. Let's move right on into the blue. So we're going to use this real dark, pretty blue because I don't want to go to a super bright blue. Wow, that's not even blue. That's purple. And that is very thin as well. That looks almost like an ink. Wow, that's super thin. That's one thing that you have to learn about your paints as well. So this is a brand new paint. I just bought it. Oops, got that stupid water drop on there. You do not want to mix water in this. This is very, very thin. So what I'm going to do is actually tap some of it off here because this is acting like a glaze. Tap some of it off onto my paper towel before I actually touch it to the model. So now the model has some lines on it that you can kind of see that just come from the molding or from the printing process. So if you don't have those, if you print at a really, really high quality, or if you go and buy a model that is made out of plastic and doesn't have the resin lines, then you're not going to have that problem. Or you're not going to have that those lines to help you here. But otherwise, you're just drawing some squares on here, and you want to take them all the way to the edge of the white, top and bottom. And just like everything else, this is going to take multiple layers. Don't expect this to be done any quicker than the white was. So I'm going to do this color, then I'll do a medium blue color, and then I'll do a light blue color. And then after I do after I do the orange as well, I'll come back with a black ink, and I will line all of these squares, top and bottom, with black ink to give us a really, really dark line in between all of the colors. That'll make it definitely look like it's painted and not like it's, I don't know what else to say it's like. So while that's drying, I will start on this brown, which also seems really thin. The game color paints are usually much thicker than this. Yeah, that is so thin. That's okay. So I'll just not mix water into it. That's fine. So then this is going to be for the bottom. And we want them to be opposite of where the blue was. So wherever the blue is up above, that same sort of panel is going to be white down below, and then vice versa. So here's where the orange is going to go. It's almost like a checkerboard. Okay. And now there is going to be one underneath his arm, or underneath his eye, I guess is what this is. Make sure you hit that one. If you're doing it this way, you can do it however you want. Just continue this the whole way around. Trying to make them as straight and clean as possible. And by doing the white first, that definitely helps. Definitely helps to make this nice and clean. There you go. Had to pull that one close to my face to be able to see it. All right. There he goes. And then The blue should be dry, or in this case, the purple, which I'm not 100% sure I like. I feel like it needs to be mixed more. I'm gonna stick with it for now because I've already started, but I think it does need to be mixed more. Well, a second coat of it did grab really, really well. So the second coat actually looks very strong, very deep blue. So this is not a one coat paint at all. This is for sure a 2-coat paint or more. And I actually think I will be doing a third coat of that because that second coat really, really changed the way it looked. Let's see. Can you see? Oh, well, that's a terrible side. But yeah, there you go. Now you can see how deep the blue is there. And if I could use something other than this terrible computer webcam, you'd actually be able to see what I'm doing better. But here we are. And I mean, it kind of goes without saying. If you watched it this far and you say, yes, I really like streaming videos and long form content, I would rather have that than the little videos where it's just kind of instructional, super short and over and done. I will get a USB to HDMI cable and hook up my actual camera and try it out that way. But see, like, you know, people that have 10,000, 100,000 subscribers, all this kind of stuff, they can send out polls and ask their followers and say, "Hey, would you like this to happen? Would that be better for you? Do you think that would be great?" And then everyone says, "Yeah, that'd be awesome. We'd love that. Thanks." I can't do that because YouTube says, "Hey, unless you have 1,000 subscribers, we don't really care about you at all." And here's the problem. How are you supposed to get more subscribers if you can't interact with your subscribers to hopefully get those subscribers to tell their friends about you and stuff like that? If all you can do is produce a video, you know, the first out of 500 subscribers, I bet like 10 of you are willing to watch like every video I put out. And with I would be shocked if it was 10. I would say maybe one of you in that entire group is willing to watch everything that I put out. The rest of you are probably there for specific types of games and content. So it's very strange that I can't interact and ask, "Hey, what is your favorite thing? What would you like to see?" and see what my most interactive subscribers are interested in, so that I could cater to that. I could cater to the people who are interested in spending time with me. But no. Let's see here. Trying to think of what I want to do next. I mean, the colors look solid enough, so I think I'm going to move on to the next color in the group, which I already have some of the fire orange right here that's already mixed in. I was using that earlier for a different model, so I'm going to start with that. It's going to need a little bit more water in it to be able to flow smoothly. And since this one's on the bottom, going to cover most of it, but not all of each and every spot here. Now this is not, well, that mixed. That's the problem with filling up your wet palette. I don't understand where all this water is coming from. I wipe my brush off, but it just keeps coming. Here we are. All right, so then come back and grab some of this. Now this is like a ton of paint on there. I don't know how that happened. Well, I know how it happened. I put it on there, but I mean, I don't know what I was thinking. There we go. Much better. Again, since this is for my RPG players, and this is just a random NPC that I 3D printed, this is not for competition. I am not too depressed by, really, I'm not too depressed by it not coming out like exactly right and it's not perfect. These are the models that you should spend time experimenting on and seeing, you know, what you can and can't do. What are you able to accomplish? You know, like where do your where do your strengths, where, wow, do I know English? Where do your strengths lie? That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah, so like what strengths do you have when it comes to painting models? And I know for one, faces are not mine. That is definitely a weakness for me. Faces are terrible, and I hate painting them. I hate painting faces. I loathe painting eyes. I will paint a chair again and again and again. Just give me a piece of furniture, a chair, a bed. I'll paint that all day, every day. What I'm really good at, I believe, is color combinations, being able to match colors to things in the world around us. I'm really good at figuring out what colors to mix to get what color I need. Those are definitely the strengths that I have found that I have in the couple years that I've been doing this. But yeah, definitely not faces. In this case here, I'm still learning my freehand. Not a strength yet, but one day. And the only way you can get better at it is by continuing to do it again and again and again. All right. Let's hit that blue again. Doing the same thing that we did with the white. On the top, my highlights are bigger. Doing about 60% of the blue in highlight. And I'm only doing about 50% of the orange in highlight. That's about 2 of each color there. Now, what I don't want is to get super bright and like out of control. So what I'm going to do is take this wolf gray that we have here and mix that with the blue to give us a blue gray. Mix a little extra blue in that. I don't want it to be too bright. And I think I'm going to grab some of the off-white and bring that in there as well. There we go. That gives us a really nice highlight color to hit the top third. Just about the top third of the blue. And then we'll do the same thing to hit about the top third or top 25%, somewhere in there of the bottom one. Remember, we want to cover slightly less. Now, with the white mixed into this blue, it's going to cover really, really well, really quickly. But I still will let it dry and then come back and do one extra coat on there. So don't be afraid to mix your paints. If you've never really experimented with it, just do it. It's fine. Can't really mess anything up. So I'll put a little bit of white in there just to make it nice and bright, and then kind of even it out there so it's not too big. See, right now it's too big of a jump. I don't know if you can really make that out, but that'd be too big of a jump. It would look absolutely ridiculous. That's still too big of a jump. Let's grab some of this red, actually. Oh, now it's starting to turn pink. Okay, so there's that. There we go. Okay. We're going to do just the top bit of this. And now it's okay if it's a little messy. Like I said before, I'm going to blackline it. So one of the hardest things about checker patterns and stuff like that is to figure out how to line it up. And I've done checker patterns more than once. And every time they come out looking incredibly sloppy. So I'm prepared for them to be sloppy. So actually what I'm noticing on this blue, I'm not going to do it on the orange. I think the orange looks good. But I think the blue needs a final highlight right at the top, right before we get to where the black line is going to be. So let's take some off-white. A little more. Yeah, just like that. We're going to go back around. We're going to hit just the top like 10%, just like right up here. Stuff that's way up at the top. Falling off my holder here. And that way, right next to the black line, you get some really bright blue. All right, so that's perfect. It's exactly what I want. So now I'm going to switch over to my ink. For the ink, I use a dry palette because, unfortunately, the ink will just soak through the wet palette and will just run all over into the sponge. And when that happens, you can't use it anymore because it's gone. So we'll use the dry palette. Don't need a lot of ink, and you don't want a lot of ink on your brush. So when you take your brush, you want any sort of fine point brush. You don't need any water. You just sort of hold it there, and you can see the ink just fill up your brush. Then you come over here and basically drag it to get yourself a point. And once you've got yourself that point, I dragged it on my paper towel. Once you've got that point, then you come back in here, and now you can edge everything with your black line. And the thing that you have to practice on this one is you want it to, every single time, just to have the same sort of line. So you want it to be straight every time. And you don't want it to be too thick or too thin. You want it to be the same each time. And I can guarantee you, if this is your first or your 50th time, it's not going to look good. Don't worry. It's called practice. And this is probably my 500th time, and I already messed it up. But I don't care. I'm going to keep going. Why? Because I don't care. all supposed to be for fun. If you're trying to make it perfect, you're going to fail every single time. And what I'm noticing that I'm doing on this is I'm keeping the brush too close to the model. And so I'm leaving this fat little blob at the end. So that right there was a perfect line. Perfect. Those ones were great. Those ones I accomplished exactly what I set out to do. Perfect line. Everything else, not so much. Let's see. And then just like that. Why did my laptop just told me that my camera is set up and ready to go? Obviously, or else you're looking at nothing right now. Okay, so now that I've got those black lines on there, I have to do another black line. So I'm gonna fill up my pen, or not my pen, fill up my brush. Make sure that I have a really fine point on there. And now the one that I'm going to do is go along the bottom edge and the top edge of each color. Now, the best way to do this is to do it in short amounts. So right now I'm just doing this part right here. Then I'm going to rotate. Do this part here. And now any of the parts that are in silver, remember they used to be black. And with a single coat, we went from it being black to being silver. So don't worry about those. If any of this needs to be cleaned up, the silver is the easiest part to clean up. I can go back over it, which I will, with the silver, and freshen it up and make it look good. Now this one I turned a little bit too much. Just like that. And connect those underneath there. Almost done. A little bit too much orange and white there. Looks very clownfish on this bottom one. Some clownfishy colors. Let's see, can you see it now? Now do the same thing on the top. Why is this not sticking? There we go. I need a little bit more of this. Okay. So now the blue and the orange and white are lined. What I'm going to do is come back with some black paint. This is just regular black paint. I'm going to paint black over the silver wherever I need to redo this silver. So the black will take us back to the base coat. It won't be shiny like the ink is. It won't be weirdly undershaded like the blue and the orange and the white would make it. So we just want to, anywhere that you accidentally mess up and you use a different color, well, I mean the color overextends itself where it's going to be a different color. Just come back with your base color. And that way you can clean it up. All right, so just let that dry, and then I can go back over it with a little bit of silver. Okay, now the black ink is going to take a really long time to dry. It always does. So you do not want to wash over an ink. That is a terrible, terrible idea. If you wash over that ink, you will instantly regret it when that ink goes everywhere with the wash and just turns into a giant mess. So what I'm doing right now is taking that Mecha Steel, the same color that I used in the very beginning with the airbrush. I'm going to come back and paint that over. And cover up all of that black that I just painted. Not the black ink, the black replacement. Stuff that was covering up wherever the blue and white ran too far. And with it being the same color over the same color, nobody is going to notice. Oh, you can't even see. Well, I needed to be close for that. So unfortunately, it's kind of how I had to do it. This whole part is just way too thick. Here we are. That looks all right. I mean, it's not perfect, but Po Buddy's nerfed. Well, from here, we're not going to be using the airbrush anymore. What we're actually going to do is wash it with a Citadel Nuln Oil. We'll wash the whole model, including the base. Then we will wash Agrax Earthshade in pieces to make him look really old and beaten up. Then we'll come back and do some like Seraphim Sepia and throw that on there as well in certain places to just make him look all distorted and bruised up. Like the metal is all distorted and bruised. Then we'll take some, what else will we do here? I think that'll be enough. And then I'll do the base. But he needs to dry up. Otherwise, I can't do the wash because the black ink will just run everywhere. So I am going to sign off here. This was a lot of fun for an hour and 4 minutes of talking to myself. Hopefully one day someone else will come on here and will talk to me. Otherwise, maybe I'll do this one more time and I'll talk to myself for an hour. Yeah, see you later.